They're blasting off. They're going to Italy. They're going to the Dolomites. Get up, get up, get up, get down.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Pasta.
That's not what happens in this part of Italy.
Hungry.
We were very hungry. Exploragonians!
Go. Boots and cats. I don't know. Why is it always boots and cats?
Okay, well, let's beatbox a different animal then. Well, I guess boots aren't an animal. But okay, if you're not going to do boots and cats, you can do shoes and dogs and shoes and dogs and shoes and dogs and shoes and dogs. Sandals and snakes.
Ooh, I like that one. Yeah. Doom. No, it's taking a turn.
Welcome to Exploragonians, a travel stories podcast. I'm your host, Jordan.
I'm your other host, Katie.
Do it!
Hi.
Hey.
How are you? It's been like a dog's age.
What exactly is a dog's age? Because I know that dogs allegedly age like 7 times faster than humans.
Who came up with that? Like they were like, all right, dogs definitely +7.
Also, why is it common knowledge that dogs age 7 times faster than humans, but there's no other animal where you're like, oh, cats, you know how they
7, 8.
Every year for a cat, 15 years for a human.
Mm-hmm.
It's very confusing. I am doing well. We have officially launched this podcast, so everything else that we've recorded up to this point, we were just doing it in a vacuum.
So you feel good that it's live?
Yeah, I'm 2 thumbs up positive.
2 thumbs up positive.
Yeah, because 2 negatives make a positive, but 2 positives just make an even bigger positive.
I feel like that's us. We're an even bigger positive.
But not COVID positive.
Not yet.
Well, you have been.
Oh my God.
I haven't been officially.
Oh,
which is
come
weird
on.
because we spend all of our time together, and just breathing into each other's mouths.
Those tests aren't 100%.
So, I probably had it.
Where are we going today?
Well, we are going to go straight to Italia. Big pizza pie, that's amore.
Dolomites.
Ooh, very good. We are going...
Anyway.
Is it fairly offensive to be singing that? Is that even Italian?
Do they also go ring-a-ding-a-ding or ring-a-ling-a-ling? Or am
don't-
I mixing that with a Christmas song?
I think you're getting trapped in some Perry Como being Crosby time warp.
Do-do-do-do-do. I think they sing it.
Da-da-da-da-da. Da-da-da-da-da.
Anyway, it's about to get real Italian. But
no, the Dolomites were not very Italian, I would have to say. We're going to visit a region this time because we didn't necessarily spend enough quality time in any one of these villages to really constitute a full episode.
So let's back up. Before we even went on this excursion...
In this excursion means Europe for 2 months.
Correct. We had a... What are we calling him? A relative?
Okay, so the person who recommended the Dolomites to us is a complicated relationship for Katie because it is the person she thought was her sister up until she was like a teenager.
It's not complicated.
Well, it's kind of complicated. I would feel complicated feelings if I thought somebody was my sister until I was a teenager.
Hey, I just accept. It's like, oh, yeah, this is my... So she was my god sister, but I was like, oh, obviously it's like just my sister who doesn't live here. It wasn't a big deal.
But that was just like
I was not a teenager. I think I was, older than, I wasn't like 4. Somewhere in grade school. And I was like, she was like, oh, where I'm like, not really your sister. And I was like, what? You can't say that to me.
But were you in her wedding by that point?
I was in her wedding later.
Okay, so after you knew that she was no longer actually like a blood relative.
I feel like you were presenting it like this just happened like last year.
Because that's how you tell stories. You're like, I don't know. It was like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay, so you were in grade school when this happened.
Okay, let's fast forward. So it's my non-sister's husband. Okay, so he was like, oh, you're going to Italy. You have to go to the Dolomites.
It wasn't even like a passive like, oh, you have to go there. You have to try that. It was like, you have to go to the Dolomites.
Right, like if you don't see this thing, like what's the point of even going
Yeah, why even
to
go to Europe? Because
Like,
he had spent a decent amount of time with like National Guard, I think, over there in Germany, and he was just telling us stories about how beautiful it is in that area, how you can just literally like, he used the example of skiing. Like you can just ski from one village to another, like just in that area, and be like, oh, I'm just, hanging out, cross country skiing, which is a great visual for me.
right. So I mean, he had a very positive experience over there. I don't know.
I'm going to say our experience with the Dolomites was among the weirdest.
It's complicated. It was a complicated excursion. It was a very Katie and Jordan experience.
It was towards the end of our 2 months in Europe. And, we don't actually have very good notes of that time because I think at this point, like, we were just trying to survive the rest of our trip.
I agree. We were how far in at that point? A month and a half?
Italy was
I
the
don't
last country we went to before going back to Paris to fly out.
And we were excited. Well, I was excited to be in Italy because, I feel like Italy, like everyone romances that idea. We had a beautiful train ride to that area.
Because we entered northern Italy by way of Austria. We were in Salzburg, which Salzburg was also a complicated place. Anyway, we never really investigated like what trains we were going on. And so we got experiences of like really serendipitous moments of being on trains that we had no right to be on. But we were like, oh my God, this is like a beautiful situation we're on. Because you read all these articles about like, oh, the best train rides to take in Switzerland, the best train rides, the most Harry Potter train ride, the most train ride.
Always the most Harry Potter train ride.
I would say this was a very Harry Potter train ride. So what happened is we just got on the first train out of Salzburg that day. And so we were on the train for hours. But we were on the exact same one, and we were going to take it to Bolzano, which is in northeastern sort of Italy. It's in the South Tyrol region of Italy. I don't know how to pronounce.
Also, we're not pronouncing things correctly, and that's just a given. So we're just going to go with it.
I'm also going to say we're not pronouncing things correctly because there is, I don't think, one singular pronunciation of any of these places in the Dolomites.
Well, that's also true because it's like half German, half Italian.
Like German-Austrian. Like, I think it's probably more of an Austrian influence than a German one. They just have like that shared base language.
That's also true.
So, we're taking this train ride. So this was, I'm going to say it was the most beautiful train ride we took in our entire lives.
Oh, for sure. It was super beautiful. I just remember like putting on my little headphones and I had some fun music. Maybe we were both listening to it. I don't know what was happening. I feel like we were journaling. We were just like looking out the window and these...
Hashtag vibing.
It was nice.
So the train ride we left from Salzburg, and so we went through Innsbruck, Austria, which is our patron saint Rick Steves. He highly recommended Innsbruck, but we had chosen to go to Salzburg instead. And we went through Innsbruck, and like the mountains surrounding Innsbruck was breathtaking. Like we docked there. The train stopped to let other people out. Mm-hmm. And it was just like, why didn't we go here? I'm very disappointed in not staying in Innsbruck.
You know why we didn't go there?
Because we went to Salzburg because of my family's love for Sound of Music. Anyway.
And this is a life lesson on you shouldn't do things for other people.
To satisfy other people.
Right. And it's not like they were begging us to go, but we were like, oh, yeah, obviously they would love it if we were here.
Yeah. So we have tales to tell.
Moving on.
So, after leaving Innsbruck, all of a sudden we are in like the Alps. Like we are literally in like this alpine region, and I don't know what if we were on a special type of train. It was like a scenic train. Like the windows were like really tall. They took up like so much of the train car we were on, and it was just this like beautiful. There was just very serene everything that we were seeing and experiencing.
Like I feel like all of a sudden it got snowy and...
Oh, gorgeously snowy. And again, we are going in like early November at this point. Mm-hmm. And so we're going on this train ride, again, for hours. At some point I realized we've crossed over into Italy. And I think we have to stop so like the Italian government has to come in and like check our papers. Mm-hmm. And so that was like, I was fairly intimidated by that, even though I was like, what's the worst an Italian's gonna do?
Wow.
That was kind of weird. I don't know. I had weird thoughts. I was like, oh, this is kind of strange.
What are you going to do? Bring me spaghetti?
Hey,
Wow.
hey, that's not what I thought. So yeah, they come and they we give them our papers, yada yada yada, and then the train ride continues. And again, it's just gorgeous the entire time. Like I didn't want the train ride to end ever.
No, I feel like I have a memory of this. Like it was just stupid beautiful. Okay, so moving on because then
So many villages, so many like, the infrastructure of the place that we were going through was so nice.
I mean, so if we go back, obviously we would just stay on the train. We wouldn't get off the train.
We probably shouldn't have.
And I think that we had taken a lot of trains that had a lot of people on them. This train didn't have a lot of people. Like I remember we had our own space.
Mhm.
And that was nice.
So we pull in, the snow kind of disappears, and then we pull into Bolzano. And I remember looking out the train and like, again, really missing those like that alpine beauty. And then all of a sudden we saw like grapevines.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh. And like, again, it was like early November. Like I had anticipated like a different type of climate when we were up there.
I think we were definitely anticipating something different. And when we Googled some images and we're like looking up, I mean, a very quick researching this area and it looked drastically different, I feel like, in my memory.
I would say when we got into Bolzano, it was a little more drab. It was like, I should have got off the train at Innsbruck. You know what I'm saying?
I do know what you're saying.
So this is the really interesting thing about Europe. When we think of, I don't know, this might just be a me thing. When I think of borders, I think of very static. Like, this is the border that's always been there. Your culture ends where this border to this country ends.
Right.
And so, you don't think that maybe other cultures bleed into each other. Maybe there's a history that spans back thousands of years and not just a couple hundred that we've been chronicling here in America. Mm-hmm. But the idea that, even though we crossed over the border to Italy, there was still like this huge like German-Austrian influence. And so everything, all the towns, like anytime that we were on any sort of like getting any sort of information, it was like it was going to give a name in Italian and a name in German. And so we were in Bolzano, but maybe it was also pronounced like Bozen, depending on which one. And so if you open like Google Maps or something, you're like, oh, well, we need to take a bus towards Castelrado, but it's also calling it Castle Ruth here. And all the trains and all the buses, they all had the double language. Like there was no one that was going to carry it through the entire time.
I will also say, I think part of the reason we didn't get off at Innsbruck was because we were meeting up with a friend.
An exchange student friend.
Right. And so she apparently lives in the Dolomites or Dolomites or however you pronounce that. And so I feel like we were motivated to go to this area, like specifically where we ended up.
And again, we found out this was a exchange student from Italy. And you get a very like specific type of image of what that would look like. You don't expect like an alpine mountain village. Mm-hmm. So I would also want to talk about the Alps. Like when I think of the Alps, because we were in the Alps mountain range, that's where the Dolomites are. When I was growing up, like you'd hear like the term the Alps, and I would just immediately thought it was all in Switzerland, like all those mountains.
Oh, for sure. You don't think that expands, like it doesn't cross the border.
Just like culture,
right?
The border,
right? Nope. The Swiss have the Alps, and that's
exclusively. Yeah,
that's wrong, you guys.
Mont Blanc, that's in France. If France and Italy owns like one of the tallest peaks in the entire continent, crazy.
Okay.
So to know that the Dolomites are part of the Alps and that we are in an alpine climate was interesting. And it was so nice to kind of shatter my own perception of what Italy is. Because Italy, it's not one thing of just pasta. It was like 200 kingdoms or something. That number might be totally incorrect. But it was just like a mess of different kingdoms that didn't have like a shared culture necessarily. And they all came together to unify under Italy. Mm-hmm. Fairly recently. Not like thousands of years ago. I think it's like a couple hundred years.
We'll see. And then they're like uniting pasta And wine?
I think you're hungry. I think that's what's
No.
happening. Pasta and wine.
Oh, because I said the spaghetti comment
Yeah,
earlier?
the spaghetti. Always with the spaghetti comments.
Okay. Also, wait, I want to backtrack on the exchange student. Now I'm thinking we didn't know that she lived there. We found a place in the Dolomites and we're like, oh, hey, we're coming to visit. And she's like, oh, that's like really close to me.
Right, because we would have picked a place closer to her village.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens is Bolzano, the population's like 100,000. And it is that mix of like Italian culture, but also an Austrian influence. Because as you're walking around, you have these like, the old European like cobblestone streets. Like the houses are kind of all like squished together. It's not your standard American grid, kind of like flows with.
Nothing is the standard American grid.
And so you're walking by and you're like, oh, look, a classical pizzeria. And then there's like lines of like shops. It's like an open air market and they're selling like pretzels and other types of like, very German Austrian types of bread. And it was just really interesting to feel like we were kind of in between worlds in a way. So Bolzano is considered like the gateway to the Dolomites, and I think that's why we stayed in that region, but there was something about staying in Bolzano that we were like, oh, well, that's not like in the Dolomites. Like, let's go into the mountains a little bit.
Right, we wanted the real deal. And again, I was looking at pictures or like checking out these like places. I was like, oh, we could go get this place right here, and we'd be in it.
And I don't know. I think it's just we found a lot of ease using Airbnb, even though we just got burned constantly by Airbnb. Especially in Italy. We got burned by Airbnb.
We just don't learn.
So, yeah. And had we not relied on Airbnb, we would have found out that the little villages we were staying in were just straight up closed.
The whole town, like nothing. It wasn't a ghost town. I think there were some people living in their homes, but like they were like, oh no, this village and this area shuts down. Like it was like for the 2 weeks that we were there.
Before like high season or something.
Right. So everybody was taking a break, not there.
Amazing. I love hyperbole. I love exaggerating something. Literally everything was closed. So Bolzano.
There was some kids playing. Okay.
So Bolzano. So there's different bus routes. There's a lot. I think the public transportation system like in the Dolomites was like surprisingly good. Like there was pretty reliable buses.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think that's probably just like how a lot of people get around.
So Katie and I found an Airbnb it was listed as in Castlerado, which is a bigger village, but it wasn't in Castlerado. It was like 2 kilometers away in Telfenlansen.
Mm-hmm.
So we get off the bus in Telfenlansen because I think I got enough Wi-Fi to like gear up like the Google Maps, and so I'm holding the phone, knowing that it's going to take us to whatever the address is.
Because we don't have Wi-Fi all the time. We didn't pay for that type of cell service, and so we need Wi-Fi.
Yep. So I got a little bit. I had some directions. The satellites knew where I was. And then we just couldn't find the place.
We just walked. I mean, for what?
Hours.
I was going to say at least an hour, maybe more. We're walking up and down the streets. We know the neighborhood real well. Nothing
is obvious. The place that we're going to with the directions that we were given from Airbnb from this host who does not speak English, it's not working.
It doesn't exist. I feel like whatever we were told, it was like, well, there's nothing here. Like, it's like, you walk and you're like, oh, it's right here around the corner. And then it's like a big field or something. Like, it was just not.
And then at one point we were on this like kind of dirt road and we were going by like horse stables.
Did we go to a pool? Was there something?
There was a pool, but it was also closed.
Right.
Literally everything was closed. It was abandoned. It was so bizarre. And we were going by these like cute B&B type places that were clearly closed. And so I think like an hour or so into just wandering aimlessly around Telfenlansen,
we see some children
who are definitely giving us an eye. We've got our backpacks. We're bundled up. We clearly don't look like we're from around there.
And so I think that we stopped them And
Slightly begrudgingly, I'm like, I don't know if I want to like. Because they're not like teenagers. I mean, they're like children.
I think that we were standing outside like a pizza place.
Yeah, so they're apparently. I remember their parents owned that hotel B&B and also had a pizza place.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so they had told us that everything was closed because it was just like the slow time. They're just like taking their break. Everything's closed.
And I think somehow maybe they went and they got us some sort of internet. Like they gave us the Wi-Fi password. And so we were able to connect and eventually figure out where we were staying.
I still don't think we really found out. I think we wrote our host. We're like, we're here. Where are you? Because we don't know. It's not good.
Oh, it's not good. It's getting dark. It's
and we because wherever the directions were taking us, like we went back, I think like 4 times, and like we really analyzed, and it was clearly like somebody's house, and that's not where we were staying. It was like it was presented as kind of a hotel.
Where we stayed, I feel like it
know.
was like an office. Like I feel like there was like an office upstairs, and in some of those other rooms. Because there was like a waiting area, and then we went in, and so like maybe they converted one of the offices into a bedroom.
Yeah, no, once we finally found it, I'm fuming. I don't want to yell at this woman who is very sweet from what I remember.
Mm-hmm.
Again, people who don't speak English oftentimes don't understand me. I don't know why. I just remember like talking to her, and when you talk to someone who is very clearly has absolutely no understanding at all of what you're saying, like this woman, it was just like blank in the face, kind of smiled at inappropriate moments. I was like, oh God, we are not on the same wavelength at all. And yeah, very clearly where we were staying in, it was just like an office building. Like it just felt like offices from like 2002. Like I was like, what is happening here? And it was apparent in the bathrooms.
Yes, it was right. So we stayed in an office building with no one else. It was just us. And with this closed downtown,
and we had our own private entrance. Thanks Airbnb.
Yeah, and
and
we had no food
and no refrigerator. We did not have a refrigerator in that space, so we had nothing. And there was clearly no grocery shops like anywhere near. Nothing. I was like, what are we gonna do? And I think,
but we did have Wi-Fi.
Finally. Okay, so again, like I knew it was converted offices or something because when I went to go to the bathroom, there was just a row of urinals. And I don't know if you've ever been in like a normal bathroom in like a residential area or even a hotel. Generally not a row of urinals. Just urinal after urinal after urinal. And there had to have been like 40 urinals just all right next to each other.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I had a bunch of stalls.
Yeah.
Whatever.
But it was our bathroom. Yeah. So we got Wi-Fi, mercifully. And so then we go and try to find out like places to eat. And so there's like, it gives us some recommendations. I think we kind of like popped around the town a little bit now that we knew where we were staying. And yeah, everything we walked by, closed, like closed permanently. Like it was almost like they had closed up shop and just left. Like there was no sign of life.
Mm-mm. Do you remember it being snowy on the ground?
It was kind of slushy, but
it was slush. It wasn't fresh snow, but it definitely wasn't, green grass, dry, and like, a nice spring walk. So we, through the slush, I feel like walk to the next town that has a grocery store because we're looking for a restaurant.
Yeah, so we walked to Castle Rado or Castle Ruth, depending on which language you are feeling that time. Because public transit was good, but it was also expensive. Every single time we went, it was like a one-way fare. Like there was no option for round-trip fares that we knew of.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was like...
But I don't think everything worked all the time. I think that by the time we had checked in, either some places had closed or something had stopped.
Right, because it was dark when we walked.
Right.
And it wasn't a lit path. Like,
No.
we were just walking on the sidewalk on the road. A sidewalk that we didn't quite know was always there because, again, it was, like, kind of slushy.
Mm-hmm.
See, I think we walked for, like, a half hour to the next town.
Mm-hmm.
And I swear to God, it was uphill both ways.
Oh, my gosh. And then, I don't know, I think we find one place that's open, which is, of course, is, like, a tavern.
There's like a hunky, like clearly kind of Italian guy, like working the bar.
And he's like ready to make us a drink, but we just want some food. And it was like, well, they didn't really have
I
anything.
kind of think like maybe the kitchen was closed, or maybe he was like, "Hey guys, like everybody knows, like in northern Italy, we closed down at the beginning of November."
Right. So I think he gave us like a piece of bread.
We got a sandwich and maybe some chips.
Maybe.
Yeah, I found the photo.
Oh.
It was a sandwich
I
with
mean,
some cheese and meat.
hey, desperate times. I mean, which I feel like you're probably listening, being like, okay, guys, like, why being weird? You got a sandwich. But it was.
But we had, it was a long travel day. I think we chose to not eat in Bolzano because we're like,
because obviously we're gonna save it and eat this really great meal.
So this is that what's the saying? Like a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. So we probably just should have eaten in Bolzano instead of like being like, you know me. I was probably like, oh my God, the bus is gonna leave in like 10 minutes. We should probably take it because that was our only lifeline to get there. And I think the bus ride, I think it was like 20 minutes or so to get from Bolzano to Telfinlansen. So yeah,
all uphill.
Up
a mountain.
It was definitely up a mountain, and it was definitely kind of like switchbacky at times in this bus.
It was.
And at one point they played Lizzo. They're playing Juice by Lizzo at one point in the bus.
Always puts me in the mood.
I also think I was exhausted on the bus. And the bus never really had that many people, but I remember like hanging out in like the back of the bus every time we took it. And I feel like I slept most of it.
I think they're probably blasting the heater because it's cold out.
Yeah. So when we were eating our sandwich,
I think we got one sandwich, or maybe that's all. Maybe that's all he had.
He might have just had. I think he did have just one sandwich.
I mean, right? It was like there wasn't options. It was like this is it: some bread, some meat, and I think there was like mustard.
Did you ever watch The Terminal starring Tom Hanks?
No.
The Terminal starring Tom Hanks was this movie about, I kind of think he was maybe like Eastern European or something. Because, Tom Hanks can just do anything he wants.
Wait, he was playing the Eastern European?
Yes. So I think the idea was like he was in, I want to say JFK. And at some point when he landed, like his country dissolved or something was the story. Like maybe the country was absorbed into another country. So his like passport didn't work, so he couldn't leave to go on his journey. So he was like trapped in JFK and he couldn't leave. I don't remember. I liked the premise, but there was this moment where he was very hungry, and so he grabbed like some saltine crackers and like loaded them up with like ketchup or something for like sustenance. That's how I felt in that tavern. Like I remember getting every condiment and draining them on the sandwich. Like, we got to get all this mustard, baby. It's gotta
sustain us because we didn't know, and I don't think we had gone to the grocery store at that point.
Right, because we didn't know it existed.
Right, and again, I mean the grocery store was fine. Okay, so I think we do have like a hot toddy or something.
Oh, you definitely get a drink.
Okay, so we have our sandwich and our drink.
So Castlerado, like, it was cold, it was dark, things were closed, but I thought it was really cute from my memory. Like, I feel like it had kind of like different levels of how the city was kind of built. There was some cool art kind of around. Would have loved to have stayed there.
Yeah, no, I think it would have been a really cute place to stay. But, we have our office back in the next town over. It's fine.
So I think it was called like Eurospa or something. It was like this fun, so
fun.
It was like a little grocery store. It was nice. I liked it. Like a chain. I think it was some sort of like big chain.
Right. So I don't know what we bought. Maybe some.
I think we had to have done like some shelf stable stuff because we did not have a refrigerator bag. I think we probably got some nuts.
I'm pretty sure we bought some wine.
Oh, we absolutely got some wine.
And then we hiked it back to the next town.
Because it was so great because we found all of these like, local wines and just the nature of the beast in Europe, like wines are just so much cheaper. And I think there's like a bunch of different reasons for that. But the wine was pretty cheap and it looked like it was good stuff. So we loaded it up. I think we got some Pinot Noir also.
I think we did too.
Over in Oregon, we're very proud of our Pinot Noir grapes. I was going to say berries.
Well, you might be proud of your Pinot Noir berries.
Thanks. And then we went back, I think had some more of our like fruit that we had eaten. We might have gotten some other types of food while we were at the grocery store and just ate it.
I don't know. I just know that it was a lot.
Definitely cracked into that wine though.
Mm-hmm. Because and it was just like nothing was open. It was cold. There was nothing to do.
Yeah, there was nothing to do. So when I went back and I reread the listing for this Airbnb, and
Oh,
the
really?
gal, she talks about how there's like this really great pizzeria nearby. There's the pool. There's these horse stables where you can go riding around the like Dolomites.
Hmm.
Probably would have been a lot of fun if it was open.
I think that we had different expectations for this trip, in particular this area. But it's okay. And so I think we went back,
Enjoyed our wine.
we wine and dine in our office space,
Wine and eat some nuts.
and then we go to sleep and wake up, and it's the next day. I mean, is this just like a one night stay, or did we do 2 nights?
We stayed for 2 nights.
Yeah.
Yeah, when we woke up the next day, it was snowing because it was your brother's birthday.
And I think that woman was back in the office, and she was arguing or something with what I assumed was the son.
Why did you have that assumption that it was
I
the son?
don't know. I don't know if she said something.
In her fluent English that she was clearly talking in.
Right. So, I mean, it's hard to say if that was actually true. But there was definitely like, I woke up to some arguing upstairs. But then you're like, oh, well, maybe they were just speaking Italian. But I just remember there was something about it that made me feel like things were getting heated. But whatever. So they leave. And
Yeah.
because I felt like I couldn't leave the bedroom and go to the bathroom. I think I felt uncomfortable, even though they were.
But they weren't going to be in our space.
Right.
But I guess we didn't.
Supposedly.
Well,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, because we had these like office windows, like they weren't necessarily like, normal human windows you'd have in a house. Like they were kind of like built to like, I don't know, let in some type of sunlight.
Or like maybe the lights, like it was up above. Were they
they're
you
kind
know,
of tall.
like one of those that you couldn't really see out? Do you remember that?
Like frosted?
Mm-hmm.
The frosted ones were like inside the building because there were windows that showed you like the rest of inside. It was like a transom, like one of those kind of windows. But we could see outside. I just think it was probably a little cold. Anyway, we woke up. It's snowing. And so we go out and we play around. We have a good time.
Oh yeah, we walked to the barn, but not. I think we just walk around.
The horse stables that don't
I
exist.
forgot. Okay, I'm here now. Right. We wake up. It's snowing. It's beautiful. We leave. I feel like you and I love a snow adventure. Forever, I think so many trips that we went on, it was like hadn't been snowing, and then all of a sudden it would start snowing, which is really great for us because in Tillamook, where we grew up, it didn't snow very often. And so there is inherently, I think, just a childlike joy every time it snows. And it's like, yes, finally.
Yeah, because thankfully, like we didn't grow up in a space where like snow was so detrimental to like everyday society or life, and so it was special.
I hope you mean like shoveling the driveway.
Well, or like, oh, everything's closed. I can't go get like the power's out.
Yeah, right. With us, like flooding, or if there were some snow flurries, I feel like everything did shut down. Like we
but
were
like
that kind
in
of
a positive way.
Gotta shut it down.
So it's snowing. It's lovely. We record some like birthday videos for your brother. We walk around the like beautiful like snow. It's very magical at this point, even though everything's closed. But again, it's nice because we're the only people around.
Right. And I think we're like having a snowball fight.
And then we are able to really appreciate like some of the mountain ranges of the Dolomites.
Mm-hmm.
And they're these like giant like limestone-esque like formations. They're enormous. So UNESCO designated the Dolomites as a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 2009. And part of that was because of like just its heritage to the world, which I feel like, knowing what we know now, like I feel like 2009 is probably kind of a late addition for the Dolomites, thinking of how beautiful they are.
Mm-hmm.
And UNESCO makes that point in their like designation that, it's widely considered to be like one of the most beautiful mountain ranges like in the entire world. They go in and they talk about like the importance of the Dolomitic limestone formations. And, these mountains, I mean, they have like these like sheer cliffs. I mean, they're very much like, sometimes if you're in like a mountain area, you're just kind of amongst the mountains. But we were amongst the mountains, and we can also appreciate these like huge like peaks and monoliths that were popping up.
Yeah, I just feel like it was so striking, and it was really nice to see it in the daylight, because I feel like we didn't have that experience when we got there. And yeah,
Or couldn't appreciate it because we were stressed.
Well, that's also true. And I do think when there's fresh snow, it just makes everything, it like does change it a little bit. And I think it was just like a really nice, bright, fresh, right? There was no one else around. Well, again, there was no one else around. But I just think it was like super beautiful. And we just hiked around in the snow, even though I know I wasn't properly dressed. I think I had a raincoat on. You know, it's cool.
A raincoat, but we were rocking our Timberland boots. So, I mean, we had like boot situation. Even though the boots were hurting you, your coat was falling apart, this whole thing.
Yeah. That's how I roll.
But then we went and met with the foreign exchange student friend that next day because we were like, oh, God, you live where? Oh, you're also in the Dolomites. So we met, we each took a bus. And so or maybe they took the train. I don't know.
Something.
We ended up in Bolzano. And so we went down there. Coincidentally, it was National Hug a Foreign Exchange Student Day, which seemed kind of magical.
Yeah, it was perfect.
So how do you know this girl?
So we have volunteered at a camp.
Outdoor school.
Okay. So we have volunteered at outdoor school. And I mean, I don't know what to say without really getting into the weeds about this program. So basically, we volunteered at a camp and she had come for a week and she was in an area that I oversaw. So I got to know her. And she hadn't been in the country that long. And she was I don't even know, shy. I mean, she was very soft-spoken and didn't speak a lot of English. And so at one point...
Or at least wasn't confident in it.
Right. So she wrote a letter in Italian that we translated, and then I read it to the group of counselors she was there with. So she could understand, but she wasn't confident enough in her English-speaking ability. And yeah, so I saw her I met her at the very beginning of her trip as an exchange student in the United States. And so it was really good to see her later. And yeah, I mean, she was way more confident speaking English. We had a very nice meal together.
We went to a little coffee shop place. And yeah, we were there with her for a couple hours, just catching up, hearing more about her experience in the U.S., what she's up to now. Mm-hmm. Because she wasn't Italian. She had connections to Albania.
Uh-huh.
So it was also interesting to know about this other ethnic group background she has.
Yeah, so that was really positive, and we said goodbye to her, and we went back to our office space.
Yeah, and so we had more time with her. I think it was kind of I think in her town, which was another 30 minutes away from Bolzano, I think they were having a wine festival or something.
Right. There were things happening everywhere but where we were at.
Which is amazing.
We must have, maybe we just ate that at that cafe and then went back to the village. I'm like, or do you think we ate again before we went back?
So yeah, we must have also eaten dinner with them because I have this memory of us each getting a meal, and that never happens. We always are sharing something.
She brought a friend with, just when we're saying they.
So yeah, I remember we each kind of loaded up. It was kind of like Fat Bear Week in national parks. You kind of loaded up before hibernation.
I don't think I appreciate that.
Fat Bear Week.
Fat Bear Week.
It felt like Fat Bear Week.
Wow.
So we did our Fat Bear Week, said goodbye, and then didn't hang out in Bolzano very much. Kind of petered around, checked out the piazza, things like that, and just admired that it was a pretty town. I'm surprised to learn that the Bolzano area has a population of 100,000 because the town square area we were in, I mean, it wasn't super lively.
No, but I mean, there was so many shops too.
There's a lot of shops, but obviously for when it's not downtime.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a functioning city. It wasn't this tiny little village that had a few B&Bs that were vacant.
Right.
So we went up, and I think with our tummies full, we didn't have much else to do. But I kind of think that we enjoyed the wine so much that we went and got more. I swear we walked back.
I agree.
We're that walk wasn't too bad. We could go back. Yeah, I don't think we ate. I think we just walked back, got some more. And we might have gotten more fruit or nuts or something. We definitely stocked up on the wine. We got a couple of those bottles.
Right, because I think we were we'll just take it with us somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we went back. The wine was super good in my memory. But we did not have a refrigerator, and so I think we wanted to chill a white wine that we also got.
Oh, yes.
And we took it outside and left it in the snow to chill down. Chill down? Oh, what a nightmare.
How creative.
How creative.
All right. So another active evening, and then we went to bed, and then the next day we were going to leave. But before we left, we wanted to catch a bus up to the top.
So we wanted to go keep experiencing like the Dolomite area, and so we were very close to Alpe di Suizzi, and that's like a big alpine meadow. We had to take the bus like into the mountains more. It was an area of like a lot of ski resorts during that season or hiking.
Is it what you thought we were going up to? Is it what you expected?
At that point, it was what I had expected. Also, well, okay, it wasn't. So we took the bus all the way to the end of this route.
Okay, wait. I just want to like let's visualize.
We're the only people on the bus.
The bus driver is not impressed. I have jeans on.
Yeah.
And right, we have our little boots.
But also we met the little guy like at the bus shack that we were standing under. And I liked this bus shack a whole lot. They had a bunch of like little flyers for things that were happening in the area. Like it looked like a really nice community when the community was present.
Right.
But yeah, there's this like old German-Italian man hanging out. And I think he's trying to ask like where we're going because we are studying the timetables for going up to the Alpe di Suizzi. And he definitely like eyes you head to toe.
And it like shakes his head like, do not go up there.
It's like, girlfriend, you were making a huge mistake.
And we're like, no, we got to do it. We got to go to the top. We got to see what's happening.
But again, we don't have a shared language with this guy.
No. But, you know, he's looking out and we're like, we're doing what we want and it's fine. So then I feel like the bus arrives. I think we get on the bus with the guy, right? But then he just takes it to the next stop.
Yes.
And he's like, later, you weirdos. So the bus driver, do you feel like he kind of begrudgingly drives us all up there? I mean, I think he had to do it.
I think he had to, but I definitely think he was like, what are you guys doing? I definitely think we asked him like to take us to the very last stop. That's what we want to do. Because something we had seen, like maybe some pamphlet that
was left in the office.
That was in the office. I think it talked about this area and how beautiful it was. Yada, yada, yada. There's some like hiking trails you could do. Whatever. So yeah, we take it. And it is just winter wonderland. Because again, it is fresh snow. It's everywhere.
It looks like an abandoned ski resort.
Several abandoned ski resorts. We go past a few on this bus drive.
I don't know what we thought. That maybe they would have snowplowed a little. I don't know. So we're dropped off. We get off the bus. Again, nobody is around. Not a soul. There goes the bus, leaving us at the top. And we're like, well, hopefully another bus will come up here and pick us up.
Because maybe
we didn't know.
I think they came like every couple hours.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, he leaves and we're like, okay, well, couple options. One, they come back. Two, maybe we die. I don't know.
So I just feel like we are walking around. Okay, again, I'm in jeans and the raincoat.
In my mind, I think I had this expectation that wherever we're going to get dropped off, there'd be very clear signs like, oh, this is a beautiful like winter wonderland hiking path. Please take it, foreigners.
Right, like that there would be something, some little path that we could have gone on that would have been, I don't know what we thought.
So we get dumped off. There's like the wooden like bus shack. Thankfully, there's like a bench.
Oh my God, we have the wine.
We got the wine.
We brought the wine.
So again, we were like, we wanted to have some wine if we're just going to be hanging out. So we definitely left it in the snow to cool down as we wandered around. There's like a ton of wood. There's like a ton of firewood just out and stacked and ready, covered in snow.
A bunch of wood. And then wasn't there like a little creek that we found?
Definitely a creek. It was a babbling brook, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
There was a large, beautiful building. Maybe it was a hotel. I don't know. Very dead. Nothing was going on.
You weren't meant to know.
I was not meant to know. But we definitely went for a walk. And I think we had this conversation like we could have kept going and saw more. But I think the likelihood of us just getting lost was maybe a little too much because everything was just covered in snow. And we were the first people who were like playing in it.
Right. So I mean, we were making our own trails, being like, well, hopefully this is a not a drop off. I mean, I don't know. Reflecting, this was quite a move.
And I think when we looked on the website about pictures of Alpe di Suizzi, I think it was, you got some beautiful vistas. You had a lot of really great views of some Dolomite peaks. It was foggy while we were there. We were pretty socked in. And I remember looking up and being like, damn. And I remember like watching the fog kind of like swirl and move. And I took the camera out and I was like, okay, any minute now that fog is going to clear up enough for me to take a photograph. And I think we got a couple good ones.
I think it turned into like, okay, well, can't do much, but we can have a photo shoot.
And drink some wine.
And I feel like there was like a lot of beautiful trees. I remember that.
Yeah.
Like how fresh snow's falling off the trees, and that's really nice.
I think at one point I debated like making sweet love with you out in the the winter wonderland. But I think what happened was like a car ended up driving by and we were like, what are you doing here?
Yeah, I do kind of remember there was like a rando.
And I think they had a very similar reaction of seeing us. They're like, what are you doing here?
Like, you don't want to know what we're doing here.
Yeah.
So then I think we go back to the little shack.
Chill. We're just gonna chill. We just hang out.
We're
It's
just
kind of nice.
We're just taking it in. And then I think eventually the bus does show back up.
Yeah.
And away we go.
I think there was a moment of being like, oh, should we wait for the next bus?
Mm-hmm.
What ideally would we have done?
I think ideally something would have been open up there. Maybe a little cafe.
Oh my God, that would have been so nice.
It would have been nice. And we could have had a little meal, maybe some hot cocoa. I don't know. Anything. A tea. There would have been a really nice, breathtaking lookout, like a specific spot that had been like, oh, wow, this is like the view. Okay, that did not happen, people. Instead, we were surrounded, by the wood stacks, the trees, the babbling brook, and the little bus shack. And that was fine, and that was good.
Yeah, it was nice. I also think the bus, like the drive was pleasant as well on the bus.
I agree. I mean, we're all about public transit in this episode. It's like, the train was nice, the bus, the like switchback. I mean, and even like, this bus taking us to the top. It was nice. It's nice not to drive and just to look out the window and just to take it in.
Because I guess when we really think about it, like a lot of these like ski resort towns, like I do think there's a good like bus system. Like if we think about Bend, like when we went to go on Mount Bachelor, like I think we got our bus tickets at Safeway and then went from there up to Mount Bachelor. Like we didn't drive.
Right.
And so it was nice to be in another country. Obviously Europe's pretty cosmopolitan, has their stuff together. But the fact that we could just like take a bus all the way up, we could have gotten off at several different ski resorts on the way, had any been open. But yeah, it was beautiful. There was like all these like gorgeous like lodge type buildings. I mean, and the fog kind of blew away at points on the drive back, and we got some good views of some Dolomites.
So ideally, what would have happened for you up there?
I guess we would have gotten to our little village and it would have been kind of bustling. It would have been like a nice, like everyone's getting ready for winter. And someone would been like, oh, what you should do tomorrow is go hit the slopes. You could just take this bus.
Here, I got the spare skis right here.
Yeah, right here. Just go on. Because I hear in that area, you can just ski from one village to another forever.
We've all heard that.
So I think I had romanticized it that we would get good food, maybe go skiing or something. Or, just have an ability to like go for like a nice winter walk somewhere. So I definitely think it was a good example of like tempering our expectations. But also, I feel like we researched as much as was appropriate before we went to this area. And I guess we could have learned that maybe if it's a resorty place, maybe we should find out if they're actually open around that time.
It was definitely a learning experience about, maybe, you're right. Maybe an area does close down.
Crazy.
I mean, we're from the Oregon coast. I mean, like,
we
do know that places close or that people are just gone or it's like, we're not doing this anymore. Like,
yeah, off season, that rings true for us.
So we were a little naive going here. But I think the other reason why we took the bus back is I think that we had left our bags at the office.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And then, we had to check out by, 10 or 11 or something. and it's like went back.
Oh yeah, so we did an early morning trip to the Alpine at Sweetsea. Like
Right. Yeah, so we went and grabbed our bags and then went and caught the bus.
when I look down, I'm realizing that our mouse pad is us in the Dolomites, and
Aww.
like I think some of the photos that are still like our profile pictures for some things are from those photo shoots that we did in the Dolomites.
Well, right.
Because it was gorgeous.
Right, we had a great time.
Yeah, okay, so I'm looking at this mouse pad right now that I look at every single day. But yeah, in the background, it's like foggy Dolomites. You can't really see them, but you know there's something there. It's like winter wonderland with all the trees. You can see several wood stacks, a lodge. We are clearly on like a bridge or something.
Okay.
And I'm going to pass that over to you, Katie.
All right, we got rain jackets on and scarves.
And a beanie. I've got a beanie.
I also have a beanie. I also have bright red lipstick because, yeah.
Because of course.
Yeah, you can see there's some mountain range. It's very snowy, not snow plowed. Are we on a bridge?
Yeah, we're on a bridge. We're over the Babbling Brook.
Oh, there we go. See?
That was gorgeous.
There we go. So we recommend the best time to go is early
November.
Early November.
Yeah, no one's there. You have the whole place to yourself. It's great. But see, I also think that I didn't allow us to have the confidence to like keep going like past Castle Rado because it was like Bolzano. We took the train or we took the bus for however long to Telfenlansen, and then it was Castle Rado, and then there was more. So I guess we could have kept taking the bus like further in and saw what would have happened. But
it's not just it with like travel in general, right? It's like you make a decision. You could always do more. You could do less. It's a big world. There's lots of things to see. And when you do multiple countries and like, right, we could have probably just committed a month to exploring this area instead of just a couple days. So, hey.
And I think, what would you do differently next time?
I think if we go back, it would be nice. It would be nice to go when it's not snowing. I think I would just like to see it maybe like in the spring.
I mean, according to Google, like it's very pretty.
Yeah, it looks beautiful, and I think that we would enjoy exploring like hiking in that area. And so even though the snow was beautiful, I think I would like to go back and explore it during the warmer months.
I agree like 100%. But I also think the wintertime was nice. It was very pleasant. It was very cozy. But it would have been nice to have actually been able to participate in some of the winter activities going on. I also feel like we didn't give Bolzano like a fair shake. Like we could have done more in that area. Like they have like one of the crown jewels in that area is they have like an archaeological museum where they have this mummy named Otzi.
Oh, I remember you saying this.
Or Otzi. So apparently he was discovered in like 1991. They believe that he lived anywhere between like 3300 and 3100 BC. And so he was like up in the Alps somewhere. I think he was closer to the border with Austria, where it is now. But yeah, I guess he was shot in the back by an arrow.
Oh.
And so they don't know if he was like a wanted man or like what's going on with him. But yeah, so he died, and then because it was like right when the weather was about to turn, his body was covered with snow and ice, and so it was well preserved for those, thousands of years. And so when they found him, they saw that he had like some injuries because he was so well preserved. But they also saw like the stuff that was on him. Like he had like this axe, he had like some flint, he had a backpack, he had like some extra shoes on him. So it was a really special thing for them to see like how this person lived. And I also think that they extracted some fecal material from his bowels.
Wow.
And I think they discovered that he had dined on maybe some red deer meat.
Wow.
And maybe some cereal is what I had read. And I was like, I don't know what cereal means. Like just grains. Or maybe it was Frosted Flakes. Who knows?
Okay, well that's interesting.
More than good, they're great. Yeah, so isn't science and archaeology just
Yes.
an amazing thing?
Yes.
So, that was just our trip to this area in a nutshell. Those are some things we'd like to do. I would have liked to have experienced more of their their dining scene, because you can get so much of culture from their cuisine.
Right, there's a ton of things I think we would have loved to do. And I mean, I don't know if everything would have been opened. I mean, financially, what we would have done, like, to participate. Would we have rented some skis or... I mean, I don't know.
I'd like to say yes, but you know how I am. Frugal.
Totally.
So, do you regret how we experienced the Dolomites?
I don't believe in regrets. So, no. I think that we had our own experience, as we do. I think that we learned something. And I think had we not, had it been easy, had it been open, I mean, yeah, I think it was great that we walked to the next town and that
for wine and sandwich.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think that obviously it could have been better. Obviously we could have done some things differently, but it's a great story and we survived, and I'm happy the bus came back and picked us up.
And we didn't turn out like Oatsy.
Yeah. So all in all, 10 out of 10.
Wow. I do think it's like one of the stories that we reflect on the most and we tell people about.
And clearly we use those pictures a lot. So
all worth it.
What about you? Do you regret?
I do regret I regret relying on Airbnb. I think more than anything.
Just in general.
Right.
I think so many times we're like, that's it, Airbnb. I think so many people have so many like wonderful, positive experiences and stays with them. But we have had so many weird times with Airbnb. It's like, oh, is this gonna be a weird stay? Sign us up.
Yeah, I can't wait to talk about the Hong Kong experience with Airbnb.
Oh my god, we have so many.
We almost got to share a room with a couple Russians. Anyway,
it's fine.
But yeah, had we just gone off and been confident and looking around at like some local B&Bs, I think we could have had a more positive experience and gotten a little bit more culture from that.
But this also plays into your need to feel like we're prepared and we have a plan. And it's more my style to be like, I could just show up and like, knock on a door and see what happens. But I do feel that now, like some sort of like, ooh, what if it doesn't work out, and like worst case scenario, and there's that idea too of booking a one night stay and then trying to find a local place, like a different place to stay. So I just think just retweaking how we do some things, and Airbnb is definitely getting the axe.
I will say, like, out of all the times, and Telfin Lands Inn was like one of the only times I actually felt like maybe we wouldn't have a place to stay that night. Because again, everything's closed. All the shops were closed. I was like, are we going to have to go back to Bolzano? What are we going to do?
Could have like been like, hey kids,
can we stay in your place? Can you make me a pizza, please? Margarita. Anyway, thank you all so much for listening to our experience in the Dolomites.
That was a lot.
Chris, if you're listening, we did it. We know we've already told you this story, but we did it for you.
We did it for you, Chris.
Everybody, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to listen to us. I don't know if you're like pumping iron, driving a car, mowing your lawn, mowing your cat. We really appreciate it. And next week, where do you want to go, Katie?
I want to go to Baker City, Oregon.
Ooh, I don't know why that accent is necessary.
I just felt it.
I mean, Baker City's kind of a cowboy town, but not really.
Well, we're going to talk about it.
I guess we're going to go from mountain snow place to mountain snow place. So we're going to see some cultural differences there.
It wasn't super mountain snow place. Come on.
Sure. Everybody, have a great...
been... Oh, no step. No. No. You have a great day.
You too.
3, 2, 1, yeah!
When the moon hits your eye like a big pizza pie, that's
Exploragonians.
in the Dolomites.
Dolomites?
Dolomites?